Alright people, so welcome to Jumbo IAS and welcome to UPSC Prelims Phoenix batch. In this Phoenix batch, we revise the entire syllabus for UPSC Prelims examination. It includes static as well as current affairs. Now, as far as the current affairs portion is concerned, we are currently covering or revising international relations related current affairs. And today is day 3 for international relations. And your today's targets are key multilateral organizations like BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? So these key multilateral organizations which were in the news in the last year, 2025, shall be covered in today's lecture. And we'll be covering these important multilateral organizations through a set of 20 MCQs. Now, the targets were given to you well in advance. The notes for these targets are also shared with you well in advance. I hope you have gone through the notes and then you are sitting for this lecture. This is very important, okay? Go through the notes first on your own and then sit for this lecture. All right? Okay then. Let's begin today's discussion on key multilateral institutions through a set of 20 MCQs. So let's begin. So international relations, current affairs, day 3. And the targets are key multilateral organizations. Now let's straight away dive into the lecture with question number 1. Okay. With reference to 17th BRICS Summit, consider the following statements. It was held in Rio de Janeiro under the theme Strengthening Global South Cooperation for a More Inclusive and Sustainable Governance. The summit culminated in Rio de Janeiro Declaration, which reinforces the 1992 Rio Principles. Indonesia was welcomed as a full member during this summit. Okay. Now, the 17th BRICS Summit. Now, you all know BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. This grouping, well, it conducts annual summits, and the 2025 summit was in Brazil. Now, by the end of this summit, well, a declaration was signed by all members, and that was the Rio Declaration. Okay. So it was held in Rio de Janeiro, and the theme for this summit was Strengthening Global South Cooperation for More Inclusive and Sustainable Governance. Now, you should be familiar with this term called Global South. Global South means all the developing countries. Okay. So this BRICS summit was fostering South-South cooperation, Global South cooperation, developing countries cooperation. Okay. So this is absolutely correct. The first statement. Now, the summit culminated in Rio de Janeiro Declaration, which reinforces the 1992 Rio Principles. Now, what are 1992 Rio Principles? Well, in 1992, Earth Summit took place in Rio de Janeiro. Okay. And in that Earth Summit, well, climate change action was undertaken. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that came into being. Okay. And many, like you must have heard about these conventions, COP20, Conference of Parties 29, 30, these climate change conferences actually began with this. So 1992 Rio Principles are related to climate change. Okay, these principles are related to climate change. And this Rio Declaration, the 2025 Rio Declaration, also had certain principles related to climate change. So this is also correct. And this summit was also important from another perspective. A new member was added to this BRICS grouping, and that is Indonesia. So all three are actually correct. Okay, next. Baku to Belém roadmap, recently mentioned in news in the context of BRICS, relates to, now look, remember I told you United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Okay, under this, a climate change conference occurs every year. And that climate change conference is called COP. Okay. Now, COP29 took place in 2024. And that took place in Baku, Azerbaijan. Okay. The next COP conference, Conference of Party Climate Change Conference, COP30, took place in Belém, Brazil. Okay. Now, in both these climate change conferences, there was this contentious issue, and that contentious issue was that if you really want to adapt to changing climate, you need finance, you need money, climate finance. And this climate finance should be provided by developed countries to developing countries. So what should be the mechanism? Now, developed countries have made certain promises that they will provide this much money to developing countries so that they can take action against climate change. But they have not yet fulfilled their commitments. So Baku to Belém roadmap basically talks about how this finance gap shall be bridged by developed countries. Basically, it talks about climate finance. A commitment by developed nations to fulfill 1.3 trillion annually in climate finance. They have pledged that they shall provide $1.3 trillion annually in climate finance. They will fulfill this commitment. This was Baku to Belem roadmap. Okay, I hope now it is clear. All right, next. Regarding India's proposed BRICS 2026 vision, which of the following are the key strategic pillars identified for its chairmanship? Now, BRICS summit took place, the 2025 BRICS summit took place in Brazil. The 2026 BRICS summit shall take place in India. India shall be the chair for 2026. Now, India has provided a vision document before it is going to host this summit in 2026, this year. Now, what are the key pillars of this vision document? Exporting digital public infrastructure like UPI and Aadhaar. Okay, is basically India has achieved some expertise in this. So India wants to export it to developing countries. Transitioning to renewables via International Solar Alliance and Global Biofuel Alliance. Pushing for permanent United Nations Security Council seat for India and Brazil. Specific mentions of cross-border terrorism in multilateral declarations, basically Pakistan. Okay. Now, all of these are key pillars of India's vision. Okay. India has expertise in UPI and Aadhaar. India wants to share that expertise with the developing world. India leads International Solar Alliance and Global Biofuel Alliance. So India wants to export this as well. India wants permanent seat in UNSC. And yes, India wants that every country should support India's demand for action against cross-border terrorism. So all are key pillars of this vision statement for next year's or this year's BRICS summit in India. Okay. So D. Next. In the context of Rio Declaration of 1992, the Climate Change Declaration, and its interpretation by BRICS, consider the following pairs. So, in the left side would be the principles that were mentioned in this declaration, and the right side column would basically explain the meaning of those principles. Okay. So, CBDRC. CBDRC stands for Common but Differentiated Responsibilities and Respective Capabilities. Developed nations have historical responsibility for emissions. Right to development. Environmental protection should not be used as a protectionist tool. Sovereign right. States have the right to exploit resources as per their own policies. Okay. So CBDRC principle says that since historically developed countries have emitted more greenhouse gases, therefore they have a higher responsibility to fight against climate change. They need to spend more money to fight against climate change as compared to developing countries. So yes, right to development says that developed countries cannot use environmental protection to discriminate against developing countries, because European Union has done that. Well, European Union has said that if you are importing anything from polluting countries, you have to pay extra duty. So this is basically discriminating against developing countries. So right to development discards that. And sovereign right. The natural resources present in every country, well, the government of that country has the exclusive right. No other country can tell how you should use your oil reserves, gold reserves, everything. Okay. So this is, all three are absolutely correctly matched. Clear? Next. Consider the following statements regarding Tropical Forest Forever Fund. It was officially launched during the G7 summit in Italy. It is a major fund supported by BRICS as per the 2025 updates. Now, Tropical Forest Forever Fund basically is a fund to protect tropical forests. Tropical forests like Amazon rainforests and many others like that, because these tropical rainforests actually absorb a lot of carbon from the atmosphere and emit a lot of oxygen in the atmosphere, which is important for all living organisms. So they are sacred. They are very important. It's very important to preserve and conserve them. Now, a fund was launched to protect and conserve them in Brazil in this BRICS summit, not G7 summit in Italy. Okay. So second statement is correct. First is false. The answer would come out to be B. Right? Okay. Next. With reference to Shanghai Cooperation Organization, consider the following statements. The 25th SCO summit was held in Tianjin, China. Tianjin Declaration explicitly condemned the April 2025 Pahalgam terror attacks, marking a diplomatic win for India. The SCO is increasingly focusing on digital and energy security as a part of its structural shift. Now, Shanghai Cooperation Organization was basically launched in early 2000s, late 1990s and early 2000s as a security cooperation organization for Russia, China, and Central Asian countries. Okay, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all these. Then India and Pakistan were also added to it, and later Iran was also added to it. Okay, so this is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, its latest summit was held in China, Tianjin, absolutely correct, in which Defense Minister Rajnath Singh also went just after Pahalgam attack and Operation Sindoor. The Tianjin Declaration explicitly condemned the April 2025 Pahalgam terror attacks. Yes, the official declaration did condemn. Without naming Pakistan, they did condemn these terror attacks. So it was a diplomatic win for India. And third statement is absolutely correct. It is focusing, though it is a security block, it talks about security, but it is now expanding to digital security, security against cyber attacks, energy security. Currently, the war between Iran and Israel is harming India's energy security. So SCO is focusing on that as well. Clear? So the answer would be 1, 2, and 3. Right? Next. In the India recast acronym for BRICS proposed for 2026, what does the letter I stand for? Now listen to me very carefully. Remember I told you that the 2026 BRICS summit shall be held in India, right? Now India has released a theme for this 2026 BRICS summit, and it is actually a full form of BRICS, another full form. Building of resilience and innovation for cooperation and sustainability. Okay, so B stands for building, resilience R, innovation I, cooperation C, S, sustainability, right? What does I stand for? Innovation. Clear? This is India's full form of BRICS for the next BRICS summit, which is going to be held in India. Okay, so a question like this can also be asked. So the answer is C. Okay, next.